Sea turtle. The sea turtle is one of the ocean's oldest looking animals, and that reputation is earned. Most species live between 80 and 100 years, with some individuals believed to reach well over a century. They're not fast-living creatures by any definition. Green sea turtles, for instance, don't even reach sexual maturity until around age 30, meaning they spend 3 full decades just growing up before they begin to reproduce. Their slow metabolism, matched to warm tropical and subtropical waters, is one of the key reasons they stick around so long. The leatherback species, the largest of all sea turtles at up to 2,000 pounds, is thought to be capable of surpassing 100 years in the wild, though confirmed records are difficult to establish because these animals were swimming in the ocean long before researchers started tagging them. Despite their impressive longevity, many species are now classified as endangered or vulnerable due to poaching, habitat destruction, and entanglement in fishing gear. Creatures that outlived the dinosaurs are now threatened by plastic bags and trawl nets. Rough-eye rockfish. The rough-eye rockfish doesn't look like much, a bumpy, reddish-orange bottom dweller lurking at depths of up to 1,500 feet in the icy Pacific and North Atlantic. But this unremarkable fish holds a confirmed maximum lifespan of at least 205 years, making it one of the longest-lived fish on Earth. The secret is simple: cold, dark, nutrient-poor deep-sea environments force slow metabolisms and even slower growth rates. A rough-eye rockfish barely grows at all per year, conserving energy like a living battery that almost never runs out. Scientists age them by examining their otoliths, tiny ear bones that accumulate annual growth rings just like a tree. And what they find is consistently startling. A fish you might pull up on a deep-sea line could be older than the United States. They aren't glamorous. They aren't particularly large, and most people have never heard of them. But rough-eye rockfish sit quietly in the dark and just keep living, year after century after century. Greenland shark. The Greenland shark is the longest living vertebrate ever confirmed on Earth, and its numbers are almost impossible to believe. A 2016 study published in the journal Science analyzed the eye tissue of 28 Greenland sharks using radiocarbon dating and estimated that the largest specimen, measuring 5.02 m, was somewhere between 272 and 512 years old, with the midpoint suggesting it was born around 1627. These sharks swim through the Arctic and North Atlantic at a pace of roughly 0.3 miles per hour, slow enough that sailors once called them sleeper sharks, drifting through freezing water with barely a flicker of energy expenditure. Their incredibly cold habitat acts almost like a biological refrigerator, slowing every cellular process to a crawl. One of the most haunting details: they don't reach sexual maturity until approximately 150 years of age, meaning a Greenland shark alive today that is only 100 years old is, biologically speaking, still a teenager. Many carry parasitic copepods dangling from their corneas,
The whale's
slowly
genetic code
stealing
glows
their
with
vision.
possibility.
Yet they keep
Decoding now,
swimming,
this could lead to
keep
human
hunting
cures,
for
biological hope.
centuries on end. Lobster. The lobster might be the most surprising entry on this list because, in theory, it should never die of old age at all. Unlike most animals, lobsters produce an enzyme called telomerase that continuously repairs the ends of their DNA, essentially preventing the cellular aging process that kills most creatures. This makes them functionally biologically immortal. Their bodies do not deteriorate with time the way ours do. In practice, however, lobsters do die. And here's the dark irony. The older and larger they grow, the more energy it takes to molt their shell, and eventually the process becomes so exhausting that they simply die from the effort. A lobster named George was estimated by PETA to be around 140 years old when he was caught in 2009 and was released back into the ocean. Without predation, disease, or the crushing effort of molting, a lobster theoretically has no biological expiration date. A creature that sells for $30 at a restaurant is, chemically speaking, designed to live forever. Bowhead whale. The bowhead whale is the longest living mammal on Earth, with confirmed individuals reaching 211 years and DNA analysis suggesting some may push toward 268 years. These enormous Arctic mammals, with bodies reaching 65 feet long and heads so massive they span 25 feet of that length, are built entirely for cold water endurance. Their blubber layer reaches 1.6 feet thick, more insulation than almost any animal alive. Perhaps the most compelling evidence of their age comes not from science labs, but from hunting. Indigenous Inuit hunters in northern Alaska have found antique ivory harpoon tips embedded in the flesh of living bowhead whales, tips from weapons used in the 1800s, meaning the animals have been swimming since before American Civil War. Their slow metabolism in freezing Arctic water appears to be the key biological driver, combined with uniquely effective DNA repair mechanisms that scientists are now actively studying for potential applications in human medicine. When a bowhead whale dies, it leaves behind a century of ocean history. Red sea urchin. The red sea urchin is a spiky, slow-moving sphere that crawls across Pacific reefs on tiny tube feet, and it turns out it barely ages at all. Studies comparing specimens from Southern California to those in British Columbia found a dramatic difference linked purely to temperature. California urchins top out at around 50 years, while Canadian urchins living in colder water have been confirmed at over 200 years old, with specimens exceeding 19 centimeters in diameter. According to the Aquarium of the Pacific, the biology of red sea urchins shows almost no measurable signs of senescence, the cellular degradation that marks aging in most animals, meaning a 200-year-old urchin produces eggs, moves, and functions essentially the same as a juvenile. They achieve this through a combination of extremely minimal energy use, slow growth, and what appears to be an immunity to the kind of accumulated cellular damage that shortens most lives. Unglamorous, slow, covered in spines, and quietly ancient, the red sea urchin is one of the ocean's best-kept longevity secrets. Ocean quahog clam. In 2006, scientists dredging off the coast of Iceland pulled up an ocean quahog clam that would break the Guinness World Record for the oldest living animal ever confirmed. They named it Ming, after the Chinese dynasty that was in power when the clam was born,
jellyfish cells
and
are
counted
glowing.
the annual growth rings on its shell the way a forester counts tree rings. The result: Ming hatched in the year 1499, making it 507 years old at the time of its discovery. Unfortunately, the researchers inadvertently killed it during the aging process. Reports indicate that off the U.S. East Coast, ocean quahog clams routinely live 200 years or more, burrowing into sandy seafloor sediment and clamping their thick, dark gray shells completely shut against predators. A simple survival trick that has been working for half a millennium. Ming lived through the Renaissance, the entire colonial era, the Industrial Revolution, both world wars, and the moon landing before ending up in a scientific sample bag. It's a small, plain-looking clam. It watched 5 centuries go by. Deep sea coral. What lives at the bottom of dark ocean trenches, barely moves, grows a few millimeters per year, and has been alive since before ancient Egypt. Deep sea coral. In 2009, researchers discovered a deep-water black coral species estimated to be around 4,265 years old. A 2016 Penn State study found coral formations off the coast of Florida that may have been growing for more than 5,000 years. Unlike the bright tropical coral reefs most people picture, these are slow, dark colonies living in cold, still water where almost nothing disturbs them. No storms, no temperature swings, no seasonal pressure. The black coral species Antipatheria, found in the Gulf of Mexico, has been dated at over 2,000 years, with some specimens reaching well beyond that. It's worth noting that coral is a colony of genetically identical polyps rather than a single individual, which complicates how we define one organism. But however you count it, these structures have been accumulating in the dark for longer than written human history. Giant barrel sponge. Off the coast of Key Largo, Florida, in the warm shallows of the Caribbean, there are giant barrel sponges that were already ancient when the Roman Empire was at its peak. The species Zestispongia muta, nicknamed the redwood of the reef, grows into barrel-shaped structures as large as a car, and the largest specimens have been estimated at over 2,300 years old. Like coral, they're technically colonial organisms, colonies of individual cells working together, but they filter enormous quantities of seawater continuously, clearing bacteria and plankton, and provide critical habitat complexity for entire reef ecosystems. Their longevity comes from exactly what you'd expect: a simple body plan, a stable cold water environment, almost no movement, and an extremely slow metabolic rate. Researchers estimate some Caribbean specimens began their lives during the 2nd century BC, meaning they've witnessed the rise and fall of Rome, the medieval period, the Renaissance, the age of exploration, and the entire history of the Americas, all while anchored to the same patch of reef floor. Immortal jellyfish. Turritopsis dohrnii is half a centimeter long, about the size of a pinky fingernail, transparent, nearly invisible, and technically the only known animal on Earth that can live forever. When a mature Turritopsis jellyfish is damaged, starving, or under sufficient stress, it reverses its own aging process through a biological mechanism called transdifferentiation. Its adult cells revert to their original stem cell state. The mature jellyfish collapses back into a polyp, and the entire life cycle begins again from scratch. This isn't dormancy or hibernation. It's a complete biological reset, like a human adult reverting to an embryo. The process can repeat indefinitely, theoretically without limit. In practice, most immortal jellyfish still die, eaten by predators, killed by pollution, wiped out by disease, but not from aging itself. Scientists studying this mechanism are actively exploring whether its underlying chemistry could offer insights into human aging and degenerative disease. Half a centimeter, transparent, nearly invisible, and the closest thing to immortality that biology has ever produced. If you want to see more, click the video on screen.